These thoughts up in my head, things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here. I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here. And I know.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm your host, Ed, and as always, journey with me as we pursue greatness in a world full of chaos. Back after a little time off, I had to get myself together. My voice was kind of It still is a little bit. You might hear it in this podcast. I'm not sure, but hopefully things go well. Hopefully you had a great week. I pray that things went well for you. My week's been all right. It's been a little interesting, just trying to balance some things and trying to figure out where I'm headed, what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I'm trying to do. It's been different, but nevertheless, we take it one day at a time and hope that everything goes well. Couches. That's, if you can't tell, I don't know if you've been a fan of the podcast and you're watching on YouTube, you can see this part of my couch where my cat likes to sleep. Well, not my cat, my son's cat, but he's made that his spot, so it looked weird, but it is what it is. Anyway, here we are, new podcast episode. If you're returning, thank you, welcome back. If you are new here, just know that we try to pursue greatness in a world full of chaos as we deal with overthinking, anxiety, worry, doubt, stress, all those things that kind of hinder us from what we're trying to do, and just try to give you a real world perspective of how we can continue to move forward. Also, by just trying to stay encouraged, man, because that's the biggest thing. We got to stay encouraged in this world. It could be a dark place, so we got to make sure that we do our best with what we got and how we move. But that's the gist of what I do. If you want to catch us on social media, actually, let's back up. If you need to know where we are streaming wise, we're on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts as well. So you can find us at Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm also on YouTube at the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. You'll see it with our cool little Overthinking Thoughts logo that you saw at the beginning of the episode. And then on the social medias, we are on Instagram at Overthinking Thoughts Pod, and also on TikTok for now at Overthinking Thoughts Pod. We'll see what happens with this band thing or whatever, but that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm rocking. Hopefully y'all been following. You get the short clips, kind of the podcast pieces, and maybe some extras, just depending on how I feel throughout the week. But other than that, that's what we do. And let's just get right into the episode. And I'm going to ask you a question. The question is, what do you do when the enemy is loud? When the enemy is loud, what are you doing? I say this because I feel like what I've been kind of going through in life, as far as like turning 40 and seeing new things and trying to, figure out how to be a parent and a husband and working and trying to balance all those things, like the enemy will come through all the time. And it can come in many different forms. I think I've experienced different forms of this, and I know that in life that you've probably have seen some things yourself, and it becomes difficult, right? So what do you do? You're trying to do your best, right? You find what you want to do. You're living your life. You're happy. You are excited. You're trying to move through everything, and you're like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. This is how I'm moving. Yada, yada, yada. This, that, and the third. And then all of a sudden, like, something happens. And then self-doubt creeps in, and then worry creeps in, and anger creeps in, and stress creeps in, and you start overthinking everything that you've been doing, and you just can't seem to figure out where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to move. All right, got it. Here's the thing. It seems that the strongest attacks tend to happen when you are really close to what you're trying to get to. The loud voices, the doubt, the roadblocks, the barriers, all those things that try to prevent you from what you're trying to do. It seems like all those become heightened when you get closer. So there should be some encouragement in the sense of, okay, I'm getting close. I'm starting to see all this stuff come up. I gotta be there, right? But sometimes it feels like that pain is too much to bear. Sometimes it feels like no matter what you do, it's going to put you in a position that just makes you feel like you can't make it. And I was thinking about this. I was kind of chilling today. Like the thought came today, and it was like, man, enemy just try to be loud. Like, but the enemy is also loud and wrong. as a Christian, we try to follow God. We try to do the best that we can. And sometimes we fall short. And in those times where we fall short, it seems like the enemy really tries to attack you at those moments. They try to really take you out of the mindset that you have that, okay, I fell, but I can get back up and do better. Okay, I went down the wrong path, but I can get back on the right track. The world will try to tell you that you can never bounce back. The enemy will try to tell you that you can never bounce back. Some people, even in your circle, will tell you that you can't bounce back. You have to be careful of who you surround yourself with, who you put your trust in, and who you invest in, because not everybody has your best interest at heart. Not everybody wants to invest in your success. And sometimes misery loves company. So if you fail, they're okay with that. And that's not what we're built to do, right? It seems like when you get close to your breakthrough, that's when the devil really tries to break you. Like, as you're getting closer, that devil's just trying to come in and throw negative thoughts, old mistakes, past failures, all these things that you forgave yourself for, but now they surface up and you're trying to figure out, well, how do I maintain? And it seems like no matter how close you get, the more intense it becomes. But that's a point where you got to ask yourself, are you going to let this destroy you, or are you going to let it build you? Are you going to let it take you away from what you've been called to do, or are you going to ask it to call and move forward? It's not meant for the weak at heart. I know that. And I know that in times of stress and doubt and anger and fear, we're worrying about, am I going to make it, or how am I going to make it through? But if you were already destined for that path and you were on that path and you were doing your best to get there, then it doesn't matter what the enemy tries to put in front of you if it's meant for you. It doesn't matter what people say about it. It doesn't matter if somebody's trying to be negative. You know what you're going after. You know your goals that you have in your heart. You know what God has intended you to do. So why would we listen to outside noise when the person that's inside of us is giving us everything that we need? And it just seems like we're, I gotta put it, we're victim to that sometimes. And sometimes we allow that to overtake our thoughts and our mind, and that's where we have this false sense of the enemy winning. I say false sense because we all know who has the ultimate victory. I think we're very aware of this. Sometimes we forget it in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of our pain, in the midst of our doubt. Sometimes that voice is so loud that we block out the truth and we don't allow ourselves to really appreciate what we've done well, or what our blessings are, or how we made it. Like, the fact that you're alive today is a win in itself. People are struggling. People are, people are, some people are evil, man. They just want to see you fall. But it also makes me think, like, maybe they haven't experienced love like you have. Maybe they haven't experienced success like you have. Maybe they don't have anybody in their corner. So although you are seeing this happen, maybe they don't have the same supports that you do. And as much as you're trying to fight the good fight to move forward, they don't know how to do that. So even in the midst of all that, you have to be the example. You might just be called to be that person's saving grace. And even in the midst of your enemies, you still have to find a way to stay positive and rise above it. It's like, for my hoopers out there, March Madness is about to happen, right? So you got to stay calm on the court. Otherwise, if you get taken out of your game, then you lose everything that you've been working on. You lose sight of the goal at reach, and then you'll go back and look at it and go, I shouldn't have made this mistake. I should have did this. I should have did that. I could have done this. I could have done that. And you're doing all these like woulda, coulda, shoulda in stories and things. But the reality is, in that moment, you have to learn to practice patience and peace, even though the enemy is trying to break you into pieces. You know their game plan. They've shown you their cards. Their whole purpose is to derail you from where you're supposed to go. Your sole purpose is to stay focused and go on the straight and narrow and trust the plan that's been set for you. We get conflicted sometimes because honestly, I think, we're more concerned about the outside noise and the outside appearances, and we become more, I guess we fall victim to those temporary successes rather than the ultimate level of success. I too am guilty of that because I think there were times, and I know I talked about this before, where I was talking about like how I was trying to compare myself to other podcasts or compare myself to other posts and things like that. Like there's people that jumped on the app and they got 2, 3, 400,000 followers. I've got 410, but I'm happy for my 410. It worked hard to get there, and I understand that when you go after something, not everybody's going to understand it, nor is everybody going to appreciate it. But at the end of the day, if you're obedient to what you're called to do, then it doesn't matter what the enemy says. It doesn't matter what the enemy does. It doesn't matter what is trying to tear you down, because the only thing you're going to do is rise above it anyway. So staying it's staying conscious and positive. Um, it's just staying in the midst of doing the best that you can, even when it looks like the only place you're headed to is a place of destruction. But that's not the case. I don't believe that you're headed to a place of destruction. I believe that you're going through a construction zone, which is building you up for where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. I think you're always under construction. In the sense of trying to build yourself, because you never want to be stagnant. And as you're building, you gotta understand that enemies try to break foundation, but they can't break something that is solid. As long as you have a solid foundation, can't nobody shake you, break you, or make you. An enemy can never take you. They can't destroy you. So why not keep going and keep chasing after what's meant for you? I'm not sure if any of that made sense, but it sounded good in my head. Hopefully it worked for you. But yeah, I think also, one thing that we also have to be careful of is not letting the enemy talk us so much that we fall into a state of depression or anxiety or worry, because that's when it really starts to fester. You ever notice that when you get highly anxious, you start creating all the stories of what ifs, of what could happen and what should happen and what may happen and what might happen, and did I do this, did I do that, and if I don't do this, then this. And then you become so engulfed in that now all of a sudden you're starting to panic, and then panic attacks occur, the worrying starts to occur, the heightened sense of fear occurs, all because you started to believe a lie. Like really, when you break it down, right? Like, why is the enemy so fixed on trying to take you away from what is meant for you? Could it be that it's meant for you to get to that point, and as much as people try to tear you away from it, it could be a test of, are you going to stay the course? Certain things happen and certain things are said in order to see just how obedient and disciplined you are. If you can stand strong and still move forward, even when the odds are stacked against you, even when things are trying to pull you down, even when things are trying to take you away from the goal. Like if you can stay solid in that, there's nothing that you can't conquer. There's nothing that you can't do. There's not a soul that'll be able to stop your progress. But I also understand that there are times where we are human and we allow ourselves to go into these areas of worry and depression because we allow the voice to be louder than our own positive thoughts. And when we get to that point, it's scary because then that's when we really start thinking about, like, well, should I quit? Is it enough? Am I doing well? Am I good enough? These are probably questions you've asked yourself. And these are probably things that you ponder on a daily basis. And I know some of us lose sleep over it. And I know that some of us don't do well in expressing those feelings. And if you take anything from this podcast, one thing I'll tell you, like, therapy is always an option for you. If you have to talk these things out, please do that. Prayer is amazing. And here's my gripe. People always think that prayer doesn't work because it's like, well, it's not instant. It First of all, the audacity of you to try to work on your time when you're talking to God. That's number one. Number two, you got to understand, like, prayer is the best way to connect with God. It allows you to voice everything that's on your mind, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever you're facing. You can tell God how you feel. And the crazy part is like, as you're doing this, he's seeing you come to him rather than turn to the world. And that's when he's like, all right, I can work on it. But when you start turning to the world and you're looking at God like, see, this is your fault, man, that's where it becomes a sticky situation. And that's not where you want to go. in the midst of those times where you feel like things are falling apart, don't lose sight and don't lose hold of the person that's pulling you through. Because you got to understand that, like, maybe this is a character building thing. Maybe it is a testimony thing. Maybe it is a story that you're going to be able to tell others that lightens their path and illuminates what they need to see because they weren't able to see it because they were in the dark. And yet you're the person assigned to be the light for them. So don't you lose sight of it, because then if you lose hold, then now your light becomes dim. And who knows where you go after that? You know how hard it is to walk in the dark? You know how hard it is, like, when the power go out and you trying to figure out where things are? Like, you got to try to go off of memory. And when you're on a journey and you don't necessarily know where you're heading, the only thing you can do is trust. So think about it like this. Like, there's a light that's going to be provided for you as long as you stay the course and trust the process. Even when things get dark, even when things become fearful, even if you feel like you're anxious or you're about to worry about something, remember who your ultimate source of light is. That even in dark times, there will be a way provided for you. There always is, there always will be, and you have to stay faithful to that. The minute you decide that it means nothing or that you're going to let the enemy win, that darkness will spread quickly, and it could easily drown out every dream you've ever had, every goal you ever wanted to accomplish, every obstacle you ever wanted to face. And you cannot walk around with a dark cloud over you when you were meant to shine light, especially when we're watching and there's people out there that are trying to be the best version of themselves and they need to see some type of inspiration. And maybe you're the person that has been brought into their life to see it. So yeah, you hold a responsibility, and I understand that moments happen and things are not always sunshine and rainbows and all that. But there is hope. There is light. Players that have hope in the future, not to harm you, but to help you. Turn it back from the 99 to come get the one. Like, that's real. But do you believe it? And can you believe that there's light even when you're sitting in the dark? Things you got to ponder. The one thing I've been really thinking about lately is, I think the enemy that's really been bothering me is the enemy of self. You can be your own worst enemy and put yourself in a position where all the things that you wanted to strive for, all it takes is for one time for you to say, I ain't feeling it, or I'm not good enough. And you could easily just drown your dreams. And I've seen it happen to people. It's unfortunate to watch brilliant minds allow their own selves to be the ones that take them away. Understanding what's true and understanding your thoughts, like that once you get to a level where you can understand that, it changes things, right? So me, for example, I was a huge self-doubter, and even now I have to catch myself on certain things. I would worry, I would allow anxiety to live in my body rent free to the point where it controlled everything. And when it had a sense of control over my body, it took me into places I didn't want to go. Panic attacks are the absolute worst. Sitting there and letting your mind spiral is the absolute worst. Talking yourself out of things that you know you're destined to do is the absolute worst. You have to find truth even in the midst of those trials and tribulations. You have to stay solid on the things that you can build off of. Otherwise, you'll fall for just about anything that you see. But see, there's so many great things that you've done, but the problem is you're so worried about, or not even worried, but you keep telling yourself that you're not good. So eventually you're going to believe that. You keep telling yourself, oh, somebody else is better than that than me. Eventually you're going to believe that. If you spent as much time speaking positive to yourself as you do promoting negativity, I wonder just how far you would go. I wonder just how successful you would be. I wonder just how thoughtful that even in the midst of dark times, you could still find a way to navigate and pull through. I wonder just how successful that would be. And you might tell me, man, I'm trying to walk, but I feel like I can't move. Listen, even crawling, a small baby step is much more considered progress than you standing stagnant and then telling yourself that you can't make it. because then you start backpedaling, and we're not meant to go backwards. We trying to move forward. All right. That's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to get you to do. And I don't want you to be your own worst enemy. I don't want you to talk yourself out of something that God has blessed you to do. I don't want you to talk yourself out of a dream that you've had ever since you were little, something that you've been so passionate about. And you allow one bad thought or one bad moment or one mistake or one decision to take you away from something that you've been destined to do. Some of the best and successful leaders in the world are people who have failed over and over and over again. The only difference is they didn't quit. See, when they were down and when they hit rock bottom, they didn't listen to the voices to tell them to stay there. They didn't listen to the hate of people who said that they weren't amount to nothing. They didn't listen to those in their circle that said, see, I always knew this would happen. No, they always knew that they were going to make it. They just knew it was a part of the process. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You are not perfect. Okay, you know all these things. So if you know that these things aren't perfect, then why would you stop trying? Why would you stop moving forward? Why would you halt your own progress? Why would you stunt your own growth? Why would you get in the way of you if you could use that for positive, if you could use that for positive energy and then move yourself in a position to do great, right? Like why would you halt yourself? And if I'm animated about this, it's because I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to y'all. I've been in the positions where I've halted my growth. I've stunted my growth numerous times. I've watched other people around me who I looked at and said, "Oh, I'll never amount to them," and then I didn't try. And now, looking at my life later, here I am realizing I should have pushed forward. So I'm having to relearn these things when I could have learned the lesson back then if I would have just believed in myself. And that's why I tell you all the time that I believe in you. You need to go believe in yourself because you do have something inside of you that is so great. You do not need an enemy telling you that you can't do it. An enemy, like I said, can be in the form of the devil. It could be in the form of friends. Sometimes it could be in the form of family. Sometimes it could be in the form of yourself. But if it's you that's stopping you from making progress, you got to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I need to do to get this negativity out of my way so I can keep moving forward? Write down your dreams, write down your goals, write down your visions, put all that stuff out there so you can see it, and do not allow distractions to dictate where you head. Because if you allow the distraction to interpret your dream, you will walk into disaster. And we are not individuals that are meant for disaster. We're individuals who have been blessed with something special inside of us to change this world for the better. But we cannot do that if we don't serve our purpose. So please be very mindful of the gift that has been given to you by God and do your best to use it and live it every single day, knowing that the enemy will try to destroy you. The weapon will form, but it won't prosper. You have to remember that. You got your shield. You got your helmet. You got your breastplate, right? And after you've done everything you can to stand, continue to stand, knowing that when the time is right, God will pull you through. When the time is right, God's got you covered. I'm telling you this. And I'm telling it to myself because I'm going to have to watch this back. Because when I'm in podcast mode, I'm like, man, look at me. But then when I'm like in my feelings, I'm like, man, who is that guy? It's the same dude. I just have to remember who I am and whose I am. You have to do the same thing. Don't let that enemy be so loud that you. Oh wow. Okay, let's. I was getting ready to say something and like I don't know. I got caught up. All right. See the enemy trying to stop me. I'm keep going. Do not let the enemy be so loud in your own mind that you don't take the time to hear the positive thoughts that you've curated, the things that have been given to you by God, the influence from other people around you that believe in what you do, right? Like focus on those things. Change your mindset from a loser's mentality to a winning mentality. Losers will always find a way to make excuses to quit. Winners will always find a way to make things work, to make it happen. Even when the deficit is crazy, even when it looks like there's no way, they fight to the end. They fight all the way to the end because they know that if they have a moment of opportunity, anything can happen. Just as long as you don't give up and you don't quit on yourself. Don't be your own worst enemy. Don't be your own worst critic. I understand that we're hard on ourselves because we have ideas of what we want to do and where we want to be. I got that. But be just as positive too. Tell yourself when you do something good. Tell yourself when you have done something really well. Tell yourself and pat yourself on the back when you have accomplished something. I'm not saying to be boastful and brag and all that, but give yourself some credit. And don't be so hard on you. Give yourself some grace too. Enemy don't like when you give grace because then it makes you think that, oh, well, you think that you could just move on from this? Yes, I do. Because I know who gave it to me. God gave me grace. So if he's giving me grace and I don't have to earn it, he just gives it to me. Why can't I find it in my heart to give myself some grace if I fall or make a mistake? Let me stand back up and do the best that I can to be the best version of me. Let me do that. Because if I can do that, then I'm in a good position to succeed. I don't want you to fail. It's 2024. I truly don't know what's going to happen this year. You got half the world saying that God's coming back. You got another half of the world not knowing what's going on. Look, we don't know. We've never known and we never will know. But what I do know is that if you have this moment and if you have this time and you have this opportunity, you have to take advantage of it for the best. And if you made mistakes and if you keep falling, pick yourself back up. You know who you are. You know the path that's meant for you. You know that there's going to be enemies all over the place. And every level that you exceed, you know that they're coming. But it doesn't mean that they can stop you. And it doesn't mean that they can hold you back because you know that you're meant to break through. And you know who's going to help you break through. Now, you got to activate it through faith and your works. And you have to trust as you walk this path, it's meant for you. It always has been. Jimmy V said it best. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. So to all of you fighting a battle, dealing with whatever the enemy may be, physical ailment, illness, a person, yourself, your situations. Yes, the weapons will form, but they won't prosper. Yes, you will have some difficult moments, but consider it pure joy when you make it through. Yes, I know that there will be times where you're like, what is going on? Am I on the right path? Can you trust? Can you believe? And can you move forward? I also noticed that my video, I think, just cut out, but that's all right because I'm going to just keep going. Matter of fact, give me a second. Somehow, some way, I'm going to have to edit this back in because I just had to add another video. I'll figure that out in post. I'm not going to let the enemy stop me from getting this message out. It's too important. And I'm not going to let myself, I'm not going to stop my own growth. And so I got a different fire in me right now. And I don't know where it came from. I've been down these past couple weeks. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not even recording. Hold on. Like I said, the enemy is trying to stop me. On the video, it's gonna look weird. I'll put something there to I don't know, figure out where I'm supposed to be. We'll figure that out. But like I said, I'm not gonna let the enemy stop me. I'm not gonna let them destroy me. I'm not gonna let them defeat me because I know I have a purpose. I know that there's something in me that I have to do that God has given me. And I want you to do the same. So my task is very simple. Whatever enemy is in your life, eliminate it. Whatever person, place, or thing is trying to stop you from getting to where you go, you talk to God and you say, hey, Lord, if it's meant for me to be here, help me to get through. And then you trust in that. And then you let it go and you let God control. Do not get in the way of his plan. Do not get in your own way. And do not stunt your own growth. And as far as everybody else is concerned, if they're not helping you grow, let them go. It's that simple. I really, really mean it when I say I believe in you. Like, I'm saying that to you. I may have never met you before, but look at me when I tell you this. I really do believe in you because I know that there is a purpose for all of us, and I know that there's a plan for all of us, and I also know that you got something great inside of you. Just make sure you take the time to unwrap the gift and be thankful for what you have and use it to the best of your ability. And as always, you saw what the enemy tried to do to us with this video, but we good because I know I got a message to get out, and I know you got one too. And what I want you to always remember is I believe in you. Now make sure you go believe in yourself, all right? It's the Overthinking Thoughts Pod. I'm Ed. We out.
These thoughts up in my head. Things I never did. I took some L's, but I'm still here. I got these thoughts up in my head. I toss and turn about some things I never said. I got regrets about some things I never did. I took some risks and took some L's, but I'm still here. And I know.